We bring you news from this morning's Licensing Authority hearing on this episode of Barnstable Today. It's Monday, August 22nd, 2016. I'm Sarah Colvin. Consumer Affairs Specialist Elizabeth Hartsgrove and staff have been working since last July on a series of updates to the town's licensing regulations. During this morning's Licensing Authority meeting, Hartsgrove laid out the timeline.
And we brought before you on February 16th of this year the first draft, and the first work session of 4 was held on March 21st, the second was on April 11th, third was on May 23rd, and the fourth and final work session was on June 13th. Each of those meetings, we had the public come up and voice their concerns and suggestions, which the board voted for us to take note and make amendments to it. So each draft, after each time it was amended, would be reposted on the website, and then a subsequent work session would be at the following meeting. And on June 13th, the board had voted to move ahead with the public hearing scheduled for today.
Tina Carey, owner of Gringo's, an establishment on Main Street, Hyannis, shared concerns about the regulations.
But it seems that there is such an atmosphere of collecting fees from everybody that it's getting completely out of control. The fact that we have to have everybody tip certified is a little excessive. And we have to have a certificate mailed to licensing within 2 weeks. Every person that gets tip certified, it costs us $40.
Attorney Stephen Pizzuto also spoke with concerns about over-regulation.
You recall that I was here at one of the earlier hearings and voiced a number of concerns about the over. I know, I have a face that's easy to forget. But I voiced a number of concerns about the over-regulation, about the arbitrariness of these regulations. The last thing that we need is more regulation. And the worst thing would be to have more regulation that's arbitrary.
Carey was also concerned about a perceived lack of notification about the public hearings.
I don't know who wrote this up, but there are so many glitches in this. I could spend hours up here, and I know you have an agenda here in your packet, but I would also say that I was never notified of these meetings that went on, these 4 meetings that apparently they had where people could voice their opinion. I had no idea of them. I mean, I've been here for 40 years. I never heard a word about it.
Hartsgrove countered that concern, saying establishments were informed on several occasions.
We had compliance meetings on April 12th for all liquor license establishments, and at the time of those required compliance meetings, we did notify through the PowerPoint and also provided each of the licensees a copy of the rules and regs of drafts, and we notified them of the public hearing, of the work sessions, and that it was coming before them. So they were invited to notify us if they had any concerns, and also they were welcome to attend those work sessions.
The Licensing Authority will continue discussion on proposed changes during the September 19th meeting. Benjamin Suro appeared before the board for approval as the newest manager of the Beech Tree Cantina. Director of Regulatory Services Richard Scally did raise some concerns about use of space at that facility.
I don't have any questions about your qualifications. I think probably it's a good thing that you're there, and hopefully you'll make some more changes as you go along. I think that there are a number of questions that zoning and building have with regards to that back room and the use of that back room, which I believe used to be a coffee shop, and then there was it became a bar, and then it became, the occupancy changed, and then you added a huge freezer. So I guess there's still some question about the use of that room and whether that's considered to be part of the overall occupancy, which I know the fire department has concern about for crowd control and sprinklers and that kind of thing. So I think there needs to be a bigger discussion about that back room and how it incorporates into the whole occupancy issue. And I know the state fire marshal is interested in that as well, and he's going to be doing review of our town on what that looks
The
like.
authority approved the change in manager. Brito's Auto Body, subject of several recent show cause hearings, is doing well in its quest to comply, as reported by Consumer Affairs Officer Therese Gallant.
Since the last meeting, we've had numerous meetings at the dealership, and I have to say myself, with my interaction with Mr. and Mr. both Britos, that it has been quite eye-opening. It's been good to work with them. They are obviously cooperating with the requests of the board and our requests as well to come into compliance. We have seen progressive movement on the property itself. There has been trash removed. There have been cars placed properly. They are working on and in fact have obtained an engineering plan, which came in over the weekend. It was the final hour. Not their issue. I actually spoke directly to the engineer that they were working with. They had put their request in as we requested them to do. And it took some time for the engineer to actually come to fruition with the plans. However, they now have the plans in place, and things are looking
Licensing also held a lengthy show cause hearing for the Car Guys, located at 551 Yarmouth Road. They're facing allegations of failing to park vehicles in accordance with the floor plan approved by the building commissioner and the licensing authority. Attorney Stephen Pizzuto, representing the Car Guys, argued that it seemed as though the Car Guys were being unfairly targeted. The licensing authority voted to continue discussion during the September 19th meeting. The Dockside Restaurant on South Street is facing a 14-day suspension after being found guilty of accepting payment in exchange for parking. The lot is currently not zoned for that use, the Dockside not licensed to operate that sort of a lot. Consumer Affairs Supervisor Elizabeth Hartsgrove explained what she saw during a recent inspection.
I conducted a site visit at 7:40 in the morning and noticed on July 13th that a number of vehicles were parked the abutting lot located at 53 South Street. At the time, I counted 41 vehicles, 1 school bus, and 1 boat on a trailer. Also, I noted at the actual establishment on School Street, there were 3 vehicles on the site. At the time, at 7:40 in the morning, I observed 2 vehicles drive in and park on 53 School Street. Thank you.
It gets a little confusing.
It does, 53 South Street, thank you. And 3 gentlemen walked out of the 2 vehicles, walked across the road to Dockside to a takeout window, exchanged money at the person in the takeout window, and then walked directly towards the Steamship Authority. I confronted the 3 individuals, asked them if they had just paid for parking, which they confirmed that they paid $15 for each vehicle per day. I then proceeded to go to the takeout window where I asked who the gentleman in the window was, and he stated his name was O'Neill. I asked Mr. O'Neill if he had accepted money for parking across the street, which is an unlicensed premise not associated with the license of Dockside, and he did confirm that he accepted $15 per vehicle. I then proceeded to my office, where then Officer Gallant and I went back to the site, and I showed her what I had seen. She went and talked to Mr. O'Neill, while then I went back onto 53 South Street and noticed receipts in the windows of vehicles. And they were confirming parking for multiple days, and then a value associated with the number of days. Approximately 11 vehicles out of the 41 had actual handwritten receipts.
The licensing authority found the Dockside guilty of illegal activity on their premise, ordered them immediately to cease and desist. The licensing authority gave the nod to an amendment of the fortune teller's license for Crystal's Psychic Gallery and 3 new fortune teller's licenses. That gallery located on West Main Street in Hyannis. Be sure to tune in to our hour-long daily news program Barnstable This Morning. On tomorrow's show, we'll talk with Chief of Police Paul McDonald, Senator Dan Wolf, and Director of Public Works Dan Santos. Barnstable This Morning, each weekday at 8 a.m. here on Channel 18. For Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Colvin.